Today I'm going to show you how to write about your town. So Meine, Stadt is my title. Now before I start, I would probably write down a list of things that I want to put in my paragraph before I start writing to make sure that I don't forget anything. So we'll do that now. Okay, so I've just dotted a list down very quickly. In an exam, I think you'll still have time to do this, but you'll just have to, and we'll have to practice, you have to come up with a quicker way of doing so. Okay, so I'm looking to vary my word order. I need to remember that aber, und, den and oder are always followed by word order 1. The word order 3 we have encountered so far, obwohl, weil, das, obwohl again, or we could say they're obgleich because that means the same thing. Wenn, wo, and we looked at that this week by, about kicking the verb to the end. And obviously we need to make sure we use some word order 2, often used with adverbs of time, things like manchmal, im Sommer, things like that. I'm obviously looking to vary my tenses. It may not present an opportunity to use 4 tenses, conditional or imperfect subjunctive, but maybe I should be aiming for at least 3. I'm looking for some sort of original and impressive vocabulary. We came across some of that last couple of weeks. Katzensprung, Augenschmaus, einen Besuch wert, really good verbs like bieten, entdecken, erleben. We had from the video earlier in the week an unforgettable experience in the heart of the town. So any of that is slightly more impressive and original vocab. I'd be looking to use at least one modal verb, so können lends itself very well to the topic of town, but you could say you must not forget to visit the cathedral. Man muss nicht vergessen, den Dom zu besuchen, which is an infinitive clause. So man hat die Gelegenheit, es ist möglich, es ist interessant, comma, ... zu, and then infinitive at the end. Obviously we're looking for adverbs. If we could, a reflexive verb, the one that comes to mind to do with town is sich befinden. Separable verbs, a bit more difficult, stattfinden. And for example, Crowborough, you'd say der Karneval findet jeden September statt. Comparative, so besser, interessanter, schöner. And then, of course, if you're using prepositions, making sure you're using the correct case. Now, I'm going to model to you how I might go about writing about where I live, bearing some of that in mind. I think to get all that in is quite a challenge. So we'll see how much of it we can do. Right, so first thing I want to say is I live in Panel, because we're not going to use Crowborough, we're going to use Panel, which is in North Yorkshire. I live in Panel, and we want to say I've lived there for 2 years. Now remember, the word seit does take the dative, so if I'm going to say for 2 years, I've got to make sure my plural has an N on the end. So, and it's also used for the present tense. So, ich wohne seit 2 Jahren in Panel in North Yorkshire or Nord Yorkshire. Now that is a fairly simple start. If you wanted to go for something a bit more difficult, you could say the place where I live is Panel in North Yorkshire. Remember, the place is der Ort. So you could say der Ort, and where I live is wo, so that's ticking our box for word order 3. Ich wohne, so that's wohne at the end, comma, ist Panel. So you could say der Ort, wo ich wohne, ist Panel. I should change my mind, I'm going to use Heist. So we could use that instead. Right, now I've got to say that it's a small village, so that's quite easy. Dorf is a das word, so es ist. Now, ist, the verb sein, is always followed by the nominative, and you'll have to look at a table for this, but I know that it's ein kleines Dorf. So it is a small village, full stop. Now I want to say it's in the northeast of England, so I could start a new sentence, but I've just thought I could actually say it's a small village which lies in the north east of England. So how could I link this up? Well, Dorf is neuter, so if I want to use a relative clause, which I need here because I want to say which, it's a small village which, I need to put das here. If it was a town, I'd have to put D, wouldn't I? So, es ist ein kleines Dorf, das in Nordostengland liegt. Hang on a sec, I wanted to use a reflexive verb. I wanted to use es befindet sich. Right, hang on a sec. Let's get rid of liegt. So liegt is at the end because it's a relative clause and it works like word order 3. So es ist ein kleines Dorf, das befindet. So I'm using befindet instead. But I've got to put the sich in, and I put the sich in here after the das. Okay, es ist ein kleines Dorf, das sich in Nordostengland befindet. Now, I want to say that Panel is quite close to Harrogate. I could use the word Katzensprung, it's masculine. We could do that, okay. So, Panel liegt, stone's throw from Harrogate. Actually, I'm going to say only. So, nur, only, einen Katzensprung von Harrogate. Now I could actually leave it there, but I'm actually going to put entfernt because it just sounds a little more complex and a little bit more German. Panel liegt nur einen Katzensprung von Harrogate entfernt. I could say Panel liegt nur 8 Kilometer von Harrogate. Right, I might want to say, let's think. Actually, you know what? Harrogate is actually quite famous because it's a spa town. So I'm going to add here after von. It's a stone's throw from the famous town Harrogate. Now, because it's von, I'm going to have to use the dative. Now, normally it's die Stadt, but this time it's going to be von der Stadt Harrogate. But I want to say famous or well-known. I'm going to say bekannt, but I need to add an ending on because it's a dative ending. It's actually going to be bekannten. Yeah, so I've got Panel liegt nur einen Katzensprung von der bekannten Stadt Harrogate entfernt. And I'm actually going to say what you can do in Harrogate. And I'm going to say where you can, love to say where you can take the waters, where you can try the waters. Oh, well, we could do that. So I'm going to use wo, and wo, as we already know, as we used it up here, takes word order 3. So, wo man, or adverb, where you can easily taste or try the waters. So, one can try the waters. So I need to put my infinitive at the end, so it's one can try. So the infinitive of try is going to go at the end, which is probieren. Wo man einfach, oh yeah, and I've not got a can. Where's my can going to go? Of course, my can is going to go at the end because this is word order 3, so it goes after the infinitive. Wo man einfach das Wasser probieren kann. Okay, so I've got Panel lies only a stone's throw from the famous town Harrogate, where you can easily try the waters. Okay, I'm going to introduce perhaps a past tense here. So for my past tense, I'm going to say that I used to live in Harrogate. What else could I say? I used to live in Harrogate. No, I can't think. I'm going to start it off anyway. Früher habe ich in Harrogate, Now I need a past participle here, so I'm going to need gewohnt. So I've ticked my past tense. And it was great, so we'll just give it a very simple opinion. You can make it more difficult. Ich fand es toll, ich dachte, dass es toll war, und es war toll or prima. I could put an intensifier in there. You can use einfach, simply great, or you can say es war wirklich toll. Why was it great? Oh, do you know what? I'm going to use an infinitive clause here, because I can say it was great to go into the town every day. Now, if I'm using an infinitive clause, I need to have a zu before my infinitive. So my sentence is, it was great to go into town every day. So I need my time phrase at the start. There we go. Jeden Tag. Then in. Now, it's Stadt, but in can take either dative or accusative. So here it's going to take accusative because it means into town. So there's movement involved. In die Stadt zu gehen. Yep, I'm quite pleased with that sentence. Okay. Hang on. I'm going to be a bit naughty here, only because I can be. It's going to make it rather a long sentence, and it sometimes may not be advisable. I'm going to add a while. So earlier I lived in Harrogate, and it was really great to go to the town, into town every day, because it had lots of different shops. Or it has lots of different shops, because it still has lots of different shops. And then I can use es gibt as well. So I'm going to have weil here, s here, and I'm going to put my gibt at the end, because weil sends my verb to the end. Weil es many different shops, viele verschiedene Geschäfte gibt. Yep, I'm pleased with that sentence. Still a bit long. I might decide to split that or do something else or take something out. Right, I'm going to say, however, panel is not a shopper's paradise, to show I can be a bit more creative with my vocab. So, however, it's going to be followed with word order 2, jedoch, ist panel. It's not a shopper's paradise. Now, because I want to use the word Einkaufsparadies, I'm not going to use the word nicht. In English, we would use nicht, not. But because it's a das word, I'm going to just put kein. Jedoch ist Panel kein Einkaufsparadies. Do you know what? I'm actually going to put another adverb in here. Ist Panel, actually I'm going to put it here, sorry. Is Panel leider. I can't put it here because I need to have my verb and my subject in that order. Jedoch ist Panel leider kein Einkaufsparadies. However, Panel is unfortunately no shopper's paradise. But nearby, what can we say? I'll use another es gibt, I think. So I'm going to link with word order 1, aber, so it's going to stay as es gibt. There's a really nice place you can go for a day out. So I'm going to say, aber es gibt Brimham Rocks. And I'm going to say where you can, if you keep using where you can, oh well, I'll do it anyway, just to show you how it's done. You again might have to watch out for the variety of vocab. So, where you can, wo man, and then can's going to go at the end. Oh, hang on a sec. What about not one can, but where young and old can, wo jung und alt. And so my verb's not going to be can, it's going to be können, and that will go at the end. And what can I say? Wo jung und alt, you could say can discover something interesting. Now we've seen etwas, we saw it with etwas heißes, I think, but to discover something interesting, you just do the same. You make your adjective into a noun just by adding es on the end. Etwas interessantes, you can do something interesting, or you can discover something interesting. Let's use discover because it's a better verb. Etwas interessantes entdecken können. Or you could say wo Jung und Alt die frische Luft genießen können. That would work quite well as well. Okay, I'm going to keep going, but on the next slide. So, right. Oh, I already used Katzensprung. I was going to say, okay, what about starting with word order 3 and saying when the weather is nice, wenn das Wetter schön ist. Now again, this is a word order 3 structure, so that's why my ist goes at the end. Wenn das Wetter schön ist. I know, we often travel to York, that's also quite nearby. Fahren wir, so I'm showing that I can use a different verb. We're using we this time. Fahren wir oft, it's another adverb of frequency, nach York. Now, this is a clever infinitive clause. I'm going to say in order, what can you do in York? Oh, you can visit the Jorvik Viking Centre. Das Jorvik, I think it's a J actually, Jorvik Museum zu, now I could use besuchen, I think I will actually. Besichtigen is quite nice, but besuchen is probably better because I'm actually talking about going into it. So when the weather is nice, we often go to York to visit the Jorvik Museum. Right, now I want to use something else a little bit more adventurous. I think, I remember from what we did earlier in the week, you can say at all times of year, York is worth a visit, and then I can use that lovely structure. Zu jeder Jahreszeit. Now again, it's going to be a word order 2. Ist York einen Besuch wert? And I could comment, on what you could do when the weather is perhaps not so bad. Okay, we'll do that quickly. Und wenn das Wetter schlecht ist. Actually, I wanted to use a comparative. So I'll write that down first. Now, I can do my comparative by just adding ER here. So I can say, and when the weather is worse. Have I used I could put haben, the tourists have the possibility. So if I use Gelegenheit, I think I have. I can't remember because I haven't got my other slide up yet. Well, I'll use it again. Let's use, right, tourists have the opportunity. So it's normally Touristen haben die Gelegenheit, but because I've started off with a word order 3 here, I've got to put my verb next. So it's going to be haben Touristen die Gelegenheit. What do tourists have the opportunity of doing when it rains? I don't know. Einkaufen zu gehen. It's a bit boring. I need to think of something else really. But it's an infinitive clause, so I mustn't forget the zu before the gehen. Okay, I think I'm bringing my little essay to a close. Right, what do I want to say then? I'd like to say one should not forget to, I know, we did discover the culinary highlights. So I am going to use man. I'm just going to start it with man. So I'm going to say, man darf nicht vergessen, one should not forget. I'm going to use another infinitive clause here, but it does work well. Man darf nicht vergessen, die kulinarische Highlights. Kulinarische Highlights. Zu erleben, we could use erleben here, so we've used zu because it's another infinitive clause. Oh, do you know, I'm just going to go back here, man darf auch. One must also not forget. You could actually start your sentence here with außerdem darf man nicht vergessen, that works quite well as well. Die kulinarische Highlights zu erleben. oh no, hang on a sec, in the heart of the town, im Herzen der Stadt zu erleben. And then I'm going to say, personally, I'd recommend Betty's Tea Room. I remember going there as a child. Big treat, big birthday treat. Persönlich würde ich Betty's Tea Room cafe, tea room cafe, I'm going to say recommend, so I'm using here a conditional. Persönlich würde ich Betty's Tea Room Cafe empfehlen. That means to recommend, because it has the best cake in the north of England. And again, I can use a superlative, so best. Okay, so because it has, now because it's cafe, I'm going to use S. I deliberately wrote cafe actually because I wanted to make sure I knew what pronoun I was going to use. Tea room cafe empfehlen, weil S. Now it's going to be hat, isn't it, next? But because I'm using weil, the hat has got to go at the end. We'll pop it over here. Right, weil S. Now, oh no, it's not der. It's not der beste Kuchen. It can't be. And the reason for that is that the verb I'm using is hat, okay? And this is in the nominative. This is the subject of my sentence. So, because, and I have just checked, and you must as well, because this is going to be in the accusative and it is masculine, it is going to be den, and I need to add an N onto my adjective. If it was just the best cake is in Betty's, it would be der beste Kuchen ist in Betty's. But if it has the best cake, it is es hat den besten Kuchen. So I do need to change that. Okay. Well now, I know it's probably taken you a long time to listen to this. It's taken me quite a long time to do as well, but it's over to you. Hopefully it's given you some ideas. Tschüss!